Let me ask you something that's going to sting. When you lie in bed at night, when the distractions fade and you are alone with your thoughts, do you feel proud of who you are becoming? Or do you feel that quiet, gnawing disappointment that whispers, you could be doing so much more? You know exactly what I'm talking about. That voice that shows up at 3 a.m. The one that reminds you of all the potential you are wasting, all the dreams you've abandoned, all the promises you've broken to yourself. That voice isn't trying to torture you. It's trying to wake you up. Because here's the brutal truth. You are running out of time. Not in some distant, abstract future. Right now. Every day you spend scrolling mindlessly, every hour you waste on things that don't matter, every week you let slip by without making progress toward what you actually want, that's time you'll never get back. And the most terrifying part? You are doing it to yourself. Nobody's holding you back. Nobody's forcing you to stay small. Nobody's preventing you from becoming the person you know you are capable of being. You are. You are choosing comfort over growth. You are choosing distraction over discipline. You are choosing familiar pain over uncertain possibility. And every single day, that choice is stealing your future. But here's what most people don't realize until it's too late. You are exactly one decision away from a completely different life. Not someday when circumstances change. Not when you have more time, more money, more confidence. Right now. This moment. The version of yourself that you admire, the one that's disciplined, focused, successful, fulfilled, that person isn't in some alternate reality. That person is a possibility, a potential, a path that opens the moment you decide to stop lying to yourself and start doing what's necessary instead of what's comfortable. This audiobook isn't about temporary motivation that fades by tomorrow. This is about the fundamental mechanics of human transformation. This is about understanding why you self-sabotage, why you procrastinate, why you know what to do but don't do it. And most importantly, this is about exactly how to override those patterns and install new ones that actually serve you. But I need something from you first. I need you to decide, right now, that you are done settling. Done making excuses. Done waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Because the person you are meant to become is waiting. But they won't wait forever. Are you ready to finally meet them? There's a version of you that exists in a parallel reality. In that reality, you made different choices. You spoke up when you stayed silent. You took action when you hesitated. You pushed forward when you gave up. And in that reality, you are living the life you currently only dream about. But here's the thing. That version of you isn't in some unreachable alternate universe. That version of you is a possibility, a potential, a path that's still available if you are willing to walk it. Right now, at this exact moment, you are standing at a crossroads. You've been here before, many times. And every time, you've chosen the familiar path. The safe path. The path that requires nothing from you. And that's why you are still in the same place, facing the same struggles, wondering when things will finally change. But what if this time was different? What if instead of hoping for change, you became the change? What if instead of waiting for life to get easier, you became stronger? What if instead of searching for the right opportunity, you became the right person? This audiobook is not a collection of empty platitudes designed to make you feel good for an hour. This is a systematic approach to rebuilding yourself from the inside out. This is about understanding the mechanics of human psychology, motivation, and achievement so deeply that transformation becomes inevitable. Over the next 90 minutes, you are going to learn things that most people never discover. You are going to understand why you self-sabotage. Why do you procrastinate? Why do you know what to do but don't do it? And most importantly, you are going to learn exactly how to override these patterns and install new ones that actually serve you. But I need something from you first. I need your complete attention. Not your divided attention while you are doing something else. Your full, undivided focus. Because the insights you are about to receive have the power to change everything, but only if you actually absorb them. Turn off distractions. Silence notifications. Give yourself this time. You've spent years investing in everything else. Invest 90 minutes in yourself. The life you want isn't going to fall into your lap. But it can be built. Deliberately. Systematically. Starting with the foundation, your mind. Let's build it together. Chapter 1. The architecture of your thoughts. Your brain is running software. Right now, as you listen to these words, your mind is processing information through filters, patterns, and programs that were installed years ago. Some of these programs serve you. Many don't. And the ones that don't are quietly sabotaging every attempt you make to improve your life. Think of your mind like a computer operating system. When you were young, you didn't choose which programs got installed. Your environment did it for you. Your parents, teachers, experiences, trauma, victories, failures, they all wrote code into your mental operating system. And now, years later, you're running on software you never consciously selected. This is why you react to criticism the way you do. Why certain situations trigger anxiety. Why do you avoid specific challenges? Why do you repeat patterns even when you know they're destructive? You are not choosing these responses. They are automatic programs running in the background. But here's what changes everything. You can rewrite the code. You can identify the programs that aren't serving you and replace them with ones that do. This isn't metaphorical. This is literally how neuroplasticity works. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your thoughts and behaviors. Every thought you think strengthens certain neural pathways and weakens others. When you repeatedly think, "I'm not capable," you are strengthening the neural pathway that supports that belief. When you repeatedly think, "I'm constantly learning and improving," you are building a different pathway entirely. Most people go through life completely unconscious of this process. They think whatever thoughts happen to arise. They never question whether those thoughts are true or helpful. They never examine the underlying beliefs driving their behavior. They are passengers in their own minds, controlled by programming they didn't choose and don't understand. Self-mastery begins with awareness. You must become conscious of your thought patterns. You must notice when limiting beliefs are running. You must catch yourself in the act of self-sabotage. Only then can you intervene. Start observing your thoughts like a scientist. Don't judge them. Don't try to force them to be different. Just notice them. I'm having the thought that this will be too difficult. I'm having the thought that I'll probably fail. I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. This simple act of observation creates psychological distance. You are no longer merged with the thought. You are the consciousness observing it. And from that place of observation, you have choice. Now, examine the beliefs underneath your recurring thoughts. If you constantly think, "I can't handle this," what's the underlying belief? Probably something like, "I'm fundamentally inadequate," or, "The world is overwhelming and I'm too weak to manage it." Is that belief true? Or is it just a story you've been telling yourself for so long that it feels true? When you actually examine most limiting beliefs, they collapse. They are based on isolated incidents that you've generalized into permanent truths about yourself. One rejection becomes, "Nobody will ever want me." One failure becomes, "I always fail at everything." One criticism becomes, "I'm fundamentally flawed." These are logical fallacies, but they are running your life because you've never questioned them. Replace limiting beliefs with accurate ones. I've experienced rejection, and I've also experienced acceptance. Both are part of life. I've failed at some things and succeeded at others. Failure is feedback, not identity. I've received criticism, which means I'm putting myself out there. I can learn from it without internalizing it. This process requires repetition. You didn't develop your limiting beliefs overnight, and you won't replace them overnight. But every time you catch a limiting thought and consciously choose a more empowering one, you are rewriting the code. You are installing new software. Your thoughts create your reality not through magic, but through mechanism. Your thoughts determine where you focus attention. Your attention determines what you perceive. Your perception determines how you interpret events. Your interpretation determines how you feel. Your feelings influence your actions. Your actions create your results. Change your thoughts, and everything downstream changes too. The architecture of your thoughts is the foundation of your life. Build it carefully. Chapter 2. The Neuroscience of Habit Formation. You are your habits. Not your intentions. Not your aspirations. Not your temporary bursts of motivation. Your habits. The things you do repeatedly, automatically, without conscious thought. These behaviors, more than anything else, determine the trajectory of your life. And here's what most people don't understand. Habits aren't about willpower. They're about neuroscience. When you understand how habits form at a neurological level, you can design them intentionally instead of falling into them accidentally. Every habit follows a loop: cue, routine, reward. Your brain notices a cue, executes a routine, and receives a reward. After enough repetitions, this loop becomes automatic. The cue triggers the routine without conscious decision-making. For example, you feel stressed, cue, you scroll social media, routine, you get temporary distraction, reward. After hundreds of repetitions, stress automatically triggers the urge to scroll. You are not choosing it. Your brain is executing a programmed response. The same mechanism that creates bad habits can create good ones. You wake up, cue, you exercise, routine, you feel accomplished, reward. Repeat this enough times, and waking up automatically triggers the desire to exercise. The key to changing habits isn't fighting urges through sheer force of will. The key is redesigning the loop. You can't easily remove a cue, but you can change the routine that follows it. Still feel stressed? That cue isn't going away. But instead of scrolling social media, you could take 3 deep breaths, go for a walk, or call a friend. Same cue, different routine. If the new routine provides a satisfying reward, it can replace the old pattern. This is why substitution works better than elimination. Don't try to stop this bad habit. Replace it with a better one that serves the same need. Habit formation also depends on making behaviors easy or difficult. If you want to exercise in the morning, sleep in your workout clothes. Put your shoes by the bed. Remove every obstacle between you and the behavior. Make it so easy that doing it requires less effort than not doing it. Conversely, if you want to break a bad habit, add friction. If you waste time on your phone, delete the apps. If you eat junk food mindlessly, don't keep it in the house. Make the behavior difficult enough that your automatic impulse gets interrupted. Another critical element is identity. Most people approach habits from the wrong direction. They focus on outcomes. I want to lose 20 pounds. But outcomes don't drive behavior. Identity does. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. I want to become the type of person who takes care of their body. I want to become the type of person who keeps their commitments. I want to become the type of person who faces challenges instead of avoiding them. When you make identity your goal, every action becomes a vote for that identity. Each time you choose the salad, you are voting for your identity as someone who takes care of their body. Each time you honor a commitment, you are reinforcing your identity as someone reliable. Over time, these votes accumulate. Your identity shifts. And once your identity shifts, behavior becomes natural. You are not forcing yourself to eat healthy. You are just being who you are, someone who takes care of their body. The most powerful habits are keystone habits. These are behaviors that, when established, create positive ripple effects throughout your life. Exercise is a classic keystone habit. When you start exercising regularly, you often naturally start eating better, sleeping better, and managing stress better. Identify your keystone habits. What one behavior, if you did it consistently, would improve multiple areas of your life? Start there. Also, understand the importance of streaks. Your brain is motivated by consistency. When you've done something for 10 days straight, you don't want to break the streak. This psychological principle can work for or against you. Use it intentionally. Track your habits. Put an X on a calendar for every day you complete the behavior. Watch the chain of excess grow. Protect the chain. This simple visual reinforcement is surprisingly powerful. But here's the critical part. When you break the chain, and you will break it, don't catastrophize. One missed day doesn't erase weeks of progress. The mistake isn't breaking the chain once. The mistake is breaking it twice. Get back on track immediately. Habits compound. Small behaviors, repeated consistently over time, create exponential results. Not because each individual action is powerful, but because they build on each other. They create momentum. They reshape your identity. They rewire your brain. You won't see dramatic changes in a week. You might not see them in a month. But in 6 months? A year? 5 years? The compound effect of good habits is staggering. Your current life is the sum of your habits. If you don't like your current life, change your habits. It's that simple. Not easy, but simple. Design your habits with intention. Build them on neuroscience, not willpower. And watch as small, consistent actions create the transformation you've been seeking. Chapter 3. Emotional Intelligence and Regulation. Most people are ruled by their emotions. They don't choose how they feel, and they don't choose how they respond to those feelings. An emotion arises, and they react automatically. Someone criticizes them, they feel hurt, they lash out. They face uncertainty, they feel anxious, they avoid. They experience disappointment, they feel defeated, they quit. This emotional reactivity keeps people trapped in patterns they can't escape. They are constantly at the mercy of their emotional state, which means they are at the mercy of external circumstances. And external circumstances are largely beyond control. Emotional intelligence changes this dynamic completely. When you develop emotional intelligence, you stop being controlled by your emotions and start using them as information. You feel the feeling without being consumed by it. You acknowledge the emotion without letting it dictate your behavior. Emotional intelligence has several components. The first is self-awareness, the ability to recognize what you're feeling in the moment. This sounds simple, but most people are remarkably unaware of their emotional states. They are anxious without knowing they are anxious. They are angry without recognizing they are angry. They feel emotions but can't name them. Start practicing emotional labeling. Throughout your day, pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? Then name it specifically. Not just bad or good, but frustrated, overwhelmed, excited, uncertain. The more specific your label, the better. Research shows that simply naming an emotion reduces its intensity. The act of labeling activates your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, which calms the amygdala, the emotional center. This is why talking about your feelings actually helps. You are literally shifting brain activity from emotional regions to rational ones. The second component is self-regulation, the ability to manage your emotional responses. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions. Suppression doesn't work. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They accumulate and eventually explode or manifest as physical symptoms. Self-regulation means feeling the emotion fully, while choosing your response deliberately. You can feel angry and choose not to yell. You can feel afraid and choose to move forward anyway. You can feel hurt and choose not to retaliate. The key is creating space between emotion and action. When an emotion arises, pause. Take 3 deep breaths. This simple act interrupts the automatic reaction pattern and gives your prefrontal cortex time to engage. From that pause, you can ask better questions. What is this emotion trying to tell me? Is this response going to help or hurt the situation? What would the person I want to be do at this moment? The third component is empathy, the ability to recognize and understand emotions in others. Empathy doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone or absorb their emotional states. It means you can perceive what they're feeling and understand their perspective. High empathy combined with strong boundaries creates powerful relationships. You can understand someone's emotions without taking responsibility for managing them. You can be compassionate without being consumed. The fourth component is social skills, the ability to manage relationships effectively. This includes communication, conflict resolution, collaboration, and influence. People with high emotional intelligence navigate social dynamics with ease because they understand the emotional undercurrents driving behavior. Now, let's talk about emotional triggers. Everyone has them. Certain situations, certain words, certain behaviors consistently produce intense emotional reactions. These triggers aren't random. They point to unresolved wounds, unmet needs, or core fears. When you notice a trigger, investigate it. What is this really about? Why did that particular thing affect me so strongly? Often, the present situation is activating an old emotional wound. Someone's tone reminds you of a critical parent. Someone's abandonment echoes a childhood experience. Someone's success triggers your fear of inadequacy. Understanding your triggers gives you power over them. You can recognize, I'm being triggered right now. This intense reaction isn't really about this situation. It's about something older, something unresolved. I can choose not to react from that wound. Also, learn to differentiate between primary and secondary emotions. Primary emotions are the initial feelings that arise. Secondary emotions are your reactions to those feelings. For example, you might feel hurt, primary, then feel angry about feeling hurt, secondary. Secondary emotions often mask primary ones. Men, in particular, are socialized to convert vulnerable emotions like hurt or fear into anger, which feels more acceptable. But reacting from secondary emotions doesn't address the real issue. You need to identify and process the primary emotion underneath. Emotional regulation also requires understanding that emotions are temporary. They rise, peak, and fall. This is called the emotional wave. When you are in the middle of intense emotion, it feels permanent. It feels like it will never end. But it will. Usually within minutes if you let it move through you instead of resisting it. Practice riding emotional waves. When intense emotion arises, don't fight it. Don't try to make it go away. Just observe it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice its intensity. Notice as it peaks. Notice as it begins to fade. This practice builds tolerance for emotional discomfort. The more you can tolerate emotional discomfort, the less controlled by it you become. You can make difficult decisions even when they feel uncomfortable. You can have hard conversations even when they provoke anxiety. You can pursue meaningful goals even when fear is present. Emotional intelligence is a skill, not a fixed trait. You can develop it through deliberate practice. Pay attention to your emotions. Name them. Understand them. Choose your responses. Over time, you'll find that emotions inform your decisions instead of making them. And that shift, from emotional reactivity to emotional intelligence, changes everything. Chapter 4. The Psychology of Motivation and Action. Here's a question that reveals everything. When you set a goal, do you achieve it? Not sometimes. Consistently. When you decide you are going to do something, does it actually happen? For most people, the answer is no. They set goals with genuine intention, they feel motivated in the moment, and then, nothing. The motivation fades. The obstacles seem larger. The goal gets quietly abandoned. And this pattern repeats over and over until they stop setting goals altogether because what's the point? But the problem isn't lack of willpower. The problem is fundamental misunderstanding about how motivation and action actually work. Most people believe motivation comes first, then action follows. They think, once I feel motivated enough, I'll take action. So they wait for motivation. They wait to feel ready. They wait for inspiration to strike. And while they are waiting, nothing happens. This is backward. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Motivation is a feeling that arises from movement, not a prerequisite for it. Think about it. When do you feel most motivated to work out? Not before you start. During and after. When do you feel most motivated to work on a project? Not while you are procrastinating. Once you've started and built some momentum. This means the key to motivation is starting before you feel like it. Take the first small action despite resistance, and motivation follows. But here's why this is so hard. Your brain is wired to avoid discomfort. When you think about doing something difficult, your brain generates resistance. It offers excuses. It emphasizes how hard it will be. It suggests you do it later. This isn't a weakness. This is biology. Your brain's primary job is to conserve energy and avoid threats. Anything new, difficult, or uncomfortable registers as a potential threat. So your brain generates resistance to protect you. This resistance feels like a lack of motivation, but it's just your nervous system doing its job. You override this resistance not by waiting for it to disappear, but by acting despite it. Every time you take action despite resistance, you are training your brain that the thing you are resisting isn't actually dangerous. Over time, the resistance decreases. Another critical insight: you don't need to feel like doing something to do it. This sounds obvious, but most people live as if their feelings must align with their actions. I don't feel like exercising, so I won't. I don't feel like working, so I'll wait. But feelings are not facts, and they are not commands. You can feel completely unmotivated and still take action. You can feel anxious and still move forward. You can feel tired and still show up. Your feelings are irrelevant to your capacity to act. This is liberation. When you realize you don't need to feel a certain way to do what needs to be done, you are no longer a prisoner to your emotional state. You can act based on your values and goals regardless of your current mood. Now, let's talk about goal setting. Most people set goals incorrectly, which is why they fail to achieve them. They set vague outcome goals. I want to be successful. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. These aren't goals. These are wishes. Effective goals are specific, measurable, and action-oriented. Instead of, I want to be healthy, try, I will exercise for 30 minutes, 5 days per week, for the next 3 months. This goal is clear. You know exactly what to do. You can measure whether you did it. There's no ambiguity. Also, focus on process goals, not just outcome goals. Outcome goals are things like, lose 20 pounds, or make 6 figures. Process goals are the behaviors that lead to those outcomes: eat vegetables with every meal, or make 10 sales calls daily. You have complete control over process goals. You don't have complete control over outcome goals. You can't directly control whether you lose 20 pounds. Too many variables. But you can control whether you eat vegetables with every meal. Focus on what's within your control. Another mistake people make is setting too many goals simultaneously. Your attention and energy are finite. When you spread them across 10 different goals, none receive enough focus to generate real progress. Choose 1 to 3 priority goals maximum. Pour your energy into those. Once achieved, move to the next ones. Sequential focus beats parallel diffusion. Motivation also requires a clear why. Why does this goal matter? Not surface-level reasons, but deep emotional reasons. I want to get in shape is weak. I want to be alive and healthy for my children's weddings is powerful. The deeper the why, the stronger the pull. Write down your why. Make it visceral. Make it emotional. Read it when motivation wanes. Your why is the fuel that keeps you going when discipline alone isn't enough. Also, understand the role of the environment. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your willpower does. If you are surrounded by junk food, you'll eat junk food regardless of your intentions. If your environment is designed for distraction, you'll be distracted. Design your environment to support your goals. Remove temptations. Add cues that trigger desired behaviors. Make good choices easy and bad choices difficult. Finally, expect resistance. Expect setbacks. Expect days when you don't feel like doing anything. These aren't signs that you are failing. These are normal parts of the process. Success isn't about never feeling resistance. Success is about taking action despite resistance more often than not. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. And consistency is just making the choice to act, over and over, regardless of how you feel. Motivation is not a feeling you wait for. Motivation is a result you create through action. Start moving, and motivation will follow. Chapter 5. The Power of Mental Models. How you interpret reality determines your experience of reality. Two people can face the exact same situation and have completely different experiences based solely on how they interpret it. One person loses their job and sees catastrophe. Another sees opportunity. Same event, different mental model, different outcome. Mental models are the frameworks you use to understand the world. They are the lenses through which you interpret events, the patterns you use to make sense of information, the structures that guide your thinking. And most people are using mental models that don't serve them. For example, many people operate from a scarcity mental model. They believe resources are limited, so life is a competition where someone else's gain is their loss. This model creates anxiety, jealousy, and defensive behavior. Every opportunity feels like a zero-sum game. Others operate from an abundance mental model. They believe there are enough resources for everyone, so another person's success doesn't diminish their own possibilities. This model creates collaboration, generosity, and openness to opportunity. Same world. Different mental models. Completely different experiences. Another common mental model is victim versus creator. In the victim model, things happen to you. External circumstances control your life. You have no agency. This model might feel comfortable because it removes responsibility, but it also removes power. If you are not responsible for your situation, you are also not capable of changing it. In the creator model, you acknowledge that while you can't control everything, you can always control your response. You have agency. You are responsible for your choices and their consequences. This model feels uncomfortable because it demands accountability, but it also grants power. If you are responsible, you are also capable. Which model serves you better? Mental models also determine what you notice. If you operate from a problem-focused model, you'll constantly identify what's wrong. Your attention naturally gravitates toward threats, obstacles, and difficulties. If you operate from a solution-focused model, you acknowledge problems but immediately shift to, how can this be solved? Neither model denies reality, but one keeps you stuck while the other moves you forward. Here's a powerful mental model to adopt: growth mindset versus fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, you believe your abilities are static. You are either smart or you are not. Either talented or you are not. This model makes challenges feel threatening because failure means you are inadequate. In a growth mindset, you believe abilities can be developed through effort and learning. Challenges are opportunities to improve. Failure is feedback. This model makes you resilient because setbacks don't threaten your identity. They are just information about what to do differently next time. Research consistently shows that people with growth mindsets achieve more, handle stress better, and maintain motivation longer than those with fixed mindsets. Same people, different mental models, different outcomes. Another useful mental model is the 10th October 2010 framework. When facing a decision, ask, how will I feel about this decision in 10 minutes? 10 months? 10 years? This model prevents impulsive choices driven by temporary emotions and focuses attention on long-term consequences. That desert looks good right now. In 10 minutes, you'll still be satisfied. In 10 months, if you've made that choice repeatedly, you'll regret it. In 10 years, the compound effect could be significant. The 10th October 2010 model makes better decisions obvious. You can also adopt mental models from different disciplines. Inversion, from mathematics, is powerful. Instead of asking, how do I succeed? Ask, how would I guarantee failure? Then avoid those things. Often, avoiding stupidity is easier than achieving brilliance. Second-order thinking, from chess and economics, is another valuable model. Most people only think about the immediate consequences of their actions. Second-order thinking asks, and then what? What happens after that? What are the long-term ripple effects? This prevents short-term decisions that create long-term problems. Yes, taking on debt might solve an immediate cash flow issue, but then what? Now you have debt payments. Then what? Now you have less financial flexibility. Then what? The compound consequences become clear. Mental models are tools. And like any tools, some are better suited for specific situations than others. The key is developing a diverse toolkit of mental models so you can apply the right one to each situation. Start collecting mental models. Read broadly across different disciplines. Philosophy, psychology, economics, physics, biology. Each field has insights and frameworks that apply beyond their domain. For example, the biological concept of hormesis, the idea that small doses of stress make organisms stronger, applies to personal development. Comfort doesn't create growth. Controlled discomfort does. The physics concept of momentum applies to productivity. Starting is hard, but once you are in motion, continuing is easier. The economic concept of opportunity cost applies to time management. Saying yes to one thing means saying no to something else. What are you giving up? As you collect mental models, test them. Apply them to real situations. Notice which ones generate useful insights. Discard ones that don't serve you. Your mental model toolkit should be curated, not cluttered. Also, recognize that mental models can become limiting if held too rigidly. Stay flexible. Be willing to update your models when you encounter evidence that contradicts them. The map is not the territory. Your mental models are approximations of reality, not reality itself. The quality of your mental models determines the quality of your thinking. The quality of your thinking determines the quality of your decisions. The quality of your decisions determines the quality of your life. Upgrade your mental models, and you upgrade everything. Chapter 6. Developing Unshakable Confidence. Confidence is not something you are born with. Confidence is not a personality trait. Confidence is not about never feeling doubt or fear. Confidence is a skill that's built through specific, repeatable actions. And here's what most people get wrong. They think confidence comes first, then action follows. They think, once I feel confident, I'll do the thing. But this is backward. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. You don't feel confident about public speaking and then give a speech. You give speeches, survive them, and gradually build confidence in your ability to speak publicly. You don't feel confident about starting a business and then launching. You launch, navigate challenges, and build confidence through the process. Confidence is the byproduct of evidence. Evidence that you can handle difficulty. Evidence that you can learn new skills. Evidence that you can survive failure and keep going. Each time you do something difficult and survive, you are building evidence. You are proving to yourself that you are capable. This means the fastest way to build confidence is to deliberately face situations that make you uncomfortable. Not recklessly, but systematically. Choose challenges slightly beyond your current capacity. Do the thing that scares you. Survive it. Notice that you survived. Repeat. Every repetition adds evidence. Every piece of evidence builds confidence. This is how confidence accumulates. But here's what prevents most people from building confidence. They're waiting for certainty. They want to know they'll succeed before they try. They want guarantees. They want to eliminate all risk. And because certainty doesn't exist, they never start. Confidence doesn't require certainty. Confidence is acting without certainty. It's saying, I don't know if this will work, but I'll give it my best effort and handle whatever happens. That's confidence. Not the absence of doubt, but action despite doubt. Another misconception: confident people don't experience fear or self-doubt. They do. The difference is they don't let those feelings stop them. They feel fear. They acknowledge the doubt. And they act anyway. This is crucial to understand. You don't need to eliminate fear to be confident. You need to change your relationship with fear. Stop viewing fear as a stop sign. Start viewing it as information. I'm feeling afraid, which means I'm doing something outside my comfort zone. Good. That's where growth happens. Confidence also requires self-trust. Self-trust is built by keeping commitments to yourself. When you say you'll do something and then you do it, you're proving to yourself that you can be relied upon. When you say you'll do something and don't, you are eroding self-trust. Most people make commitments to themselves casually and break them easily. I'll start eating better tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, they don't. I'll exercise this week. The weekends, they didn't. Each broken commitment is a message to yourself: I can't be trusted. Start making fewer commitments and honoring the ones you make. Better to commit to one small thing and follow through than commit to 10 things and abandon them all. Build self-trust through reliability. Confidence is also contextual. You might feel confident in one area of life and completely insecure in another. That's normal. Confidence in public speaking doesn't automatically transfer to confidence in dating. Confidence in your career doesn't automatically create confidence in creative pursuits. This means you need to build confidence in each domain separately. Identify the areas where you lack confidence, then systematically build evidence in those specific areas. Another element of confidence is competence. While you don't need to be perfect before starting, developing skill does increase confidence. If you are trying to build confidence as a writer but you never practice writing, it's going to be difficult. Competence and confidence reinforce each other. Invest in skill development. Take courses. Get coaching. Practice deliberately. As your competence increases, your confidence naturally grows. You are not faking it. You are building real capability. Also, pay attention to your internal narrative. Confident people don't have a critical voice berating them constantly. They have an encouraging internal coach. When they make a mistake, their inner voice says, "That didn't work. What can I learn?" Not, "You are a failure. You should give up." Rewrite your internal narrative. Speak to yourself like you'd speak to someone you are trying to help succeed. This doesn't mean false praise. It means honest, constructive, encouraging self-talk. Physical state affects confidence too. When you stand tall, shoulders back, taking up space, you feel more confident. When you slouch, make yourself small, avoid eye contact, you feel less confident. Your physiology and psychology are interconnected. Use your body to influence your mind. Before a challenging situation, adopt a confident posture. Take deep breaths. Make eye contact. Move decisively. Your body sends signals to your brain about the kind of situation you are in. Send signals that say, "I've got this." Finally, understand that confidence doesn't mean you never feel inadequate. It means you feel inadequate and proceed anyway. It means you acknowledge your limitations while believing in your capacity to learn and grow. Confidence is built one uncomfortable action at a time. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for guarantees. Start building evidence through action. And watch as the person you are becoming makes the person you were unrecognizable. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Strategic Thinking. Most people don't think strategically. They react. They respond to immediate pressures. They put out fires. They operate in constant crisis mode, moving from one urgent task to another without ever stepping back to ask, "Is this actually moving me toward where I want to be?" Strategic thinking is the ability to step above the day-to-day chaos and see the bigger picture. It's asking not just, "What needs to be done today?" but, "What needs to be true a year from now for me to consider this time successful? And what actions today contribute to that outcome?" This requires a fundamental shift in how you approach your time and energy. Most people prioritize urgency over importance. Something feels urgent, so they do it immediately, even if it's not actually important. Meanwhile, truly important things that aren't urgent get perpetually postponed. This is why people stay busy but never make meaningful progress. They are constantly addressing urgent but unimportant demands, while the important but non-urgent work never gets done. Strategic thinking means identifying what's truly important, what actually moves you toward your long-term goals, and protecting time for those things regardless of urgency. Use the Eisenhower matrix. Divide tasks into 4 categories: urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, not urgent and not important. Most people spend their time in urgent and important, crisis mode, and urgent but not important, distractions. Strategic thinkers invest heavily in important but not urgent, planning, skill development, relationship building, health maintenance, strategic projects. These activities never feel urgent, which is precisely why most people neglect them. But these are the activities that compound into extraordinary results over time. Strategic thinking also requires understanding leverage. Not all actions produce equal results. Some actions produce disproportionate outcomes. These are high-leverage activities. Strategic thinkers identify and prioritize them. For example, if you are building a business, spending 8 hours creating social media posts might generate some results. But spending those same 8 hours developing a strategic partnership might generate 10 times the results. Same time investment, dramatically different outcomes. That's leverage. Ask constantly, what's the highest leverage use of my time right now? What action would create the most significant impact? Another aspect of strategic thinking is second and third order consequences. Most people only think about immediate results. Strategic thinkers think several steps ahead. If I do this, what happens? And then what? And then what? This kind of thinking prevents decisions that solve immediate problems but create bigger ones downstream. For example, working 70 hours per week might help you hit a short-term deadline. But what are the second-order consequences? Exhaustion, deteriorating health, strained relationships. Third-order consequences? Burnout, health problems that force you to stop working entirely, damaged relationships that can't be repaired. Strategic thinking considers the full chain of consequences before acting. Strategic thinkers also differentiate between problems to solve and problems to manage. Some problems have solutions. You can solve them and move on. Other problems don't have permanent solutions. They require ongoing management. For example, you can solve a specific technical problem in your business. You cannot permanently solve the challenge of maintaining customer relationships. That's an ongoing management task. Trying to permanently solve problems that require ongoing management wastes enormous energy. Strategic thinkers recognize the difference and allocate effort accordingly. Planning is another crucial element. Most people don't plan. They just start doing and hope it works out. Strategic thinkers plan before acting. They think through potential obstacles, necessary resources, and realistic timelines. This doesn't mean creating perfect plans. Perfect plans don't exist. It means thinking strategically about the path from here to there before taking the first step. Use backward planning. Start with the desired outcome. Then ask, what needs to happen immediately before that? And before that? And before that? Work backward until you reach today. This creates a logical sequence of steps from where you are to where you want to be. Strategic thinking also involves scenario planning. Don't just plan for the most likely scenario. Consider the best case, worst case, and most likely case. Then have strategies for each. If the best case happens, how will you capitalize on it? If the worst case happens, how will you manage it? If the most likely scenario unfolds, what's your path forward? This preparation reduces reactivity and increases adaptability. Another key practice: regular review and reflection. Strategic thinkers don't just execute plans mindlessly. They regularly assess, is this still working? Are these goals still relevant? What am I learning? What needs to change? Schedule weekly and monthly reviews. Look at what you accomplished, what you didn't, what worked, what didn't. Extract lessons. Adjust strategy. This iterative process keeps you aligned with your actual goals instead of blindly following outdated plans. Strategic thinking requires saying no a lot. Every yes to one thing is a no to something else. Strategic thinkers protect their focus by declining opportunities that don't align with their priorities, even good opportunities. This is hard. Saying no feels like closing doors. But strategic focus requires accepting that you cannot do everything. You can only do a few things exceptionally well. Choose them deliberately. Finally, strategic thinking means thinking in systems, not just goals. Goals are outcomes you want to achieve. Systems are the processes that generate those outcomes. Lose 20 pounds is a goal. Eat vegetables with every meal and exercise 4 times weekly is a system. The system is what you can control and maintain. The goal is just a natural byproduct of the system. Focus on building systems, and goals take care of themselves. Strategic thinking is a discipline. It requires stepping out of reactive mode and into intentional mode. It requires regular time for planning, reviewing, and adjusting. It requires the courage to say no to urgency in favor of importance. But the payoff is immense. Strategic thinkers accomplish more with less effort because they are working on the right things in the right ways. Stop reacting. Start thinking strategically. Chapter 8. Mastering Productive Discomfort. Comfort is killing your potential. Not dramatically. Not obviously. Quietly. Gradually. Every day you choose comfort over growth, you are choosing stagnation over possibility. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Everything you want is outside your comfort zone. The relationship you desire requires vulnerability you are avoiding. The career you dream about requires risks you are not taking. The person you want to become requires changes you are resisting. All of it lives in the territory of discomfort. And yet, your brain is designed to seek comfort and avoid discomfort. This is biology. Your nervous system interprets unfamiliarity as a potential threat. So it generates resistance, anxiety, and excuses to keep you where it's safe. This is why change is so difficult. You are fighting your own neurobiology. But here's the key insight. You can rewire this response. You can train your nervous system to tolerate and even seek productive discomfort. Productive discomfort is different from unnecessary suffering. You are not pursuing pain for its own sake. You are deliberately facing discomfort that leads to growth. The discomfort of a challenging workout. The discomfort of a difficult conversation. The discomfort of learning a new skill. These forms of discomfort are temporary and purposeful. The key is making discomfort a practice, not an occasional event. Most people avoid discomfort their entire lives. Then, when unavoidable discomfort arrives, they collapse because they have no tolerance for it. Build tolerance deliberately. Each day, do something uncomfortable. Have the conversation you are avoiding. Do the task you are procrastinating. Face the fear you are running from. Start small if needed, but start. Each time you face discomfort voluntarily, you are expanding your window of tolerance. You are teaching your nervous system, this discomfort won't kill me. I can handle this. This is how resilience develops. Not through positive thinking, but through repeated exposure to manageable challenges. Cold exposure is a perfect metaphor and practice. Taking a cold shower is deeply uncomfortable. Every instinct screams to stop. But if you breathe through it and stay, the discomfort becomes tolerable. Your body adapts. And you prove to yourself that you can override your instinct for comfort. This translates to other areas. If you can sit in a cold shower despite every impulse to escape, you can sit in the discomfort of a difficult project. The skill is the same, tolerating discomfort without fleeing. Another practice, voluntary hardship. Occasionally choose difficulty even when easier options exist. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Carry groceries in one trip instead of two. Fast for a day. Sleep on the floor. These arbitrary challenges serve a purpose. They prove you don't need perfect comfort to function. This builds mental toughness. When real hardship arrives, you are not shocked by discomfort. You've practiced it. You know you can handle it. Also, reframe how you think about discomfort. Most people view discomfort as punishment or something to be eliminated. Reframe it as feedback. Discomfort means you are at your edge. You are growing. You are pushing past previous limits. When you feel discomfort during a workout, that's the signal that adaptation is happening. When you feel discomfort during a difficult conversation, that's the signal that something important is being addressed. When you feel uncomfortable learning a new skill, that's the signal that your brain is forming new connections. Discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the mechanism of growth. This doesn't mean you should seek suffering or stay in toxic situations. It means you should stop avoiding productive challenges just because they feel uncomfortable. Differentiate between discomfort and damage. Discomfort is a manageable challenge. Damage is harmful. Learning to tell the difference is crucial. You want to lean into discomfort while avoiding actual damage. For example, the discomfort of social anxiety when meeting new people is productive. It's your nervous system adjusting to an unfamiliar situation. Lean into it. The discomfort of staying in an abusive relationship is actually damaging. Don't lean into that. Remove yourself. Learn to sit with emotional discomfort without numbing it. Most people immediately reach for distraction when uncomfortable emotions arise. They scroll social media, eat, drink, watch Netflix, anything to avoid feeling what they're feeling. But this avoidance prevents processing. The emotion doesn't go away. It just gets suppressed, where it accumulates and eventually erupts or manifests physically. Practice sitting with discomfort. When anxiety arises, don't immediately distract yourself. Sit with it. Observe it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice its intensity. Breathe through it. Let it move through you. Usually, if you don't resist it, an emotion peaks and fades within minutes. But people don't know this because they never let themselves fully feel their emotions. They abort the process with distraction. Build your capacity to feel fully. This is emotional fitness. Just like physical fitness requires working muscles to fatigue, emotional fitness requires experiencing emotions to completion. Another powerful practice: do the hardest thing first. Each morning, identify your most challenging task. The one you are most likely to procrastinate on. Do it first, before anything else. This accomplishes two things. First, it ensures the important work gets done. Second, it builds momentum. Once you've handled the hardest thing, everything else feels manageable. You start the day with a win. Most people do the opposite. They ease into the day with easy tasks, building up to the hard ones. By the time they reach it, they're tired and resistance is high. Then they postpone it to tomorrow. The cycle repeats. Flip this. Embrace discomfort early. Get it done. Experience the relief and confidence that follows. Finally, understand that comfort is not the goal. Growth is. Fulfillment is. Meaning is. These things require temporary discomfort in service of long-term satisfaction. Comfort right now often means regret later. Discomfort right now often means pride later. Choose wisely. Your comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. Step out deliberately, regularly, systematically, and watch as the person who can't tolerate discomfort becomes the person who thrives in it. Chapter 9. The Science of Deep Focus. Your ability to focus deeply is the most valuable skill you can develop in the modern economy. Not intelligence, not education, not even talent. The ability to concentrate fully on complex tasks without distraction is becoming increasingly rare, which makes it increasingly valuable. And yet, most people are losing this ability. Their attention spans are shrinking. Their capacity for sustained focus is deteriorating. They can't read a book without checking their phone. They can't work for an hour without switching tasks. They can't have a conversation without mental drift. This isn't a personal failure. This is the result of living in an environment specifically designed to fragment your attention. Every app, every platform, every device is engineered to capture and hold your focus. Algorithms optimize for engagement, which means keeping you clicking, scrolling, refreshing. Your attention is being systematically hijacked. But attention is not passive. You can reclaim it. You can rebuild your capacity for deep focus through deliberate practice. Deep focus, as opposed to shallow work, is the state where you are fully immersed in cognitively demanding tasks. Time seems to disappear. You are not fighting distraction. You are absorbed. This is where your best work happens. This is where learning occurs. This is where creativity emerges. But deep focus requires specific conditions. First, uninterrupted time. You cannot achieve deep focus in 15-minute increments between meetings. You need solid blocks of time, ideally 2 to 4 hours, protected from interruption. Schedule these blocks. Treat them as sacred. Turn off notifications. Close email. Put your phone in another room. Remove every potential distraction from your environment. Second, deep focus requires a clear objective. Vague goals like work on the project don't create focus. Specific objectives like draft the introduction section do. Your brain needs to know exactly what task you are concentrating on. Before each focus session, define precisely what you are trying to accomplish. This clarity eliminates decision fatigue during the session. Third, deep focus requires energy. You cannot focus deeply when you are exhausted, hungry, or physically uncomfortable. This is why focus sessions should be scheduled during your peak energy hours, not at the end of a draining day. For most people, peak focus hours are morning after rest and nutrition. Protect these hours for your most important cognitive work. Fourth, deep focus is a skill that must be trained. If you've been operating in distraction mode for years, you cannot suddenly focus for 4 hours straight. You need to rebuild this capacity gradually. Start with shorter sessions. Maybe 30 minutes of uninterrupted focus. As this becomes easier, extend to 45 minutes. Then an hour. Then 90 minutes. Gradually build your focus endurance. During these sessions, you'll experience the urge to check your phone, switch tasks, and seek stimulation. Notice these urges without acting on them. Each time you resist, you are strengthening your focus muscle. This is concentration training. You are literally building new neural pathways that support sustained attention. Another technique, single tasking. Multitasking is a myth. Your brain doesn't actually perform multiple tasks simultaneously. It switches rapidly between them, and each switch carries a cognitive cost. The more you switch, the worse your performance on each task. Single tasking means doing one thing at a time with full attention. Not listening to a podcast while working. Not checking email during a meeting. Not scrolling while watching TV. One thing. Full attention. This feels uncomfortable initially because you are adapted to constant stimulation. Push through. The discomfort is your brain adjusting to a healthier mode of operation. Also, be strategic about what deserves deep focus. Not everything requires it. Administrative tasks, email management, routine communications, these are shallow work. They are necessary but don't require deep cognitive effort. Batch shallow work into designated time blocks. Don't let it infiltrate your deep focus time. Protect deep focus for the work that actually moves you forward: strategic thinking, creative work, complex problem solving, skill development. Another powerful practice: digital minimalism. Most people have dozens of apps, hundreds of notifications, and constant connectivity. This creates a state of perpetual partial attention. You are never fully focused on anything because part of your attention is always monitoring for the next notification. Radically reduce digital noise. Delete apps that don't serve a clear purpose. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Check email and messages at designated times instead of reactively throughout the day. This creates space for your attention to rest and consolidate. Your brain needs downtime, periods of low stimulation where it can process and integrate information. Constant input prevents this consolidation. Build in transition time between tasks. When you finish one activity, take a few minutes before starting the next. Breathe. Walk. Let your mind settle. This prevents the cognitive residue from one task contaminating focus on the next. Also, recognize that focus is depleted throughout the day. You have limited cognitive resources. Each decision, each task requiring willpower, each moment of focus depletes your reserves. This is why focus is highest in the morning and lowest in the evening. Structure your day accordingly. Deep work in the morning. Shallow work in the afternoon. Rest in the evening. Don't fight your natural cognitive rhythms. Another element, environmental design. Your environment either supports focus or destroys it. A cluttered, noisy, visually chaotic environment fragments attention. A clean, quiet, organized environment supports it. Create a dedicated focus space. It doesn't need to be elaborate. It needs to be consistent. When you enter the space, your brain knows this is where focus happens. This environmental cue strengthens your ability to enter deep focus quickly. Finally, practice mindfulness. Mindfulness training, even just 10 minutes daily, significantly improves attention control. You are training the exact skill you need for deep focus, noticing when your mind wanders and redirecting it. Meditation is concentration training. Each time you notice your mind has wandered from the breath and bring it back, you are strengthening your capacity to maintain focus. Deep focus is not a luxury. In a distracted world, it's a necessity. Those who can focus deeply will accomplish exponentially more than those who can't. Reclaim your attention. Rebuild your focus. Protect it fiercely. Your future depends on it. Chapter 10. Building Identity-Based Transformation. Most people try to change their behaviors while maintaining their identity. They want to exercise regularly while still identifying as someone who's not athletic. They want to be financially responsible while still identifying as someone who's bad with money. They want to be confident while still identifying as someone who's shy and anxious. This doesn't work. Behavior change without identity change is temporary. You can force yourself to act differently for a while, but eventually, you'll snap back to behaviors that match your identity. Because your identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are. And humans are remarkably consistent with their self-concept. If you see yourself as undisciplined, even when you act disciplined for a few weeks, you'll eventually sabotage yourself to realign with your identity. The internal story is stronger than temporary behavior. This is why New Year's resolutions fail. People try to change what they do without changing who they are. They rely on motivation and willpower to maintain behaviors that contradict their identity. Eventually, willpower depletes, motivation fades, and they return to behaviors consistent with their unchanged identity. Real transformation requires identity change. You need to change who you believe you are, not just what you do. When your identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. So how do you change identity? Through evidence. Your identity is based on beliefs about yourself. Those beliefs are formed and reinforced by evidence. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. If you go to the gym, you are voting for the identity of someone who takes care of their body. If you skip the gym, you are voting for a different identity. Each vote counts. Not equally, but they count. The key is accumulating votes for the identity you want to embody. You don't need unanimous votes. You just need a majority. If you work out 4 days and skip 3, you have more votes for someone who exercises, then against. Start small. Don't try to completely overhaul your identity overnight. Choose one identity you want to embody. Maybe someone who keeps their commitments. Maybe someone who faces challenges instead of avoiding them. Maybe someone who treats their body with respect. Then ask, what would someone with that identity do in this situation? When faced with a choice, refer to your desired identity. I'm someone who keeps commitments. What would that person do right now? Over time, you'll accumulate evidence. You'll have a track record of behaviors consistent with that identity. And as the evidence accumulates, the belief strengthens. Eventually, the new identity feels true. At that point, the behaviors become natural, not forced. This is how you create lasting change. Not through willpower, but through identity shift. Another powerful technique: identity statements. These are declarations about who you are, stated in present tense, as if already true. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who faces fear. I am someone who values their health. These statements aren't lies or delusions. They're aspirational identities you are embodying through action. Each time you act in alignment with the statement, you are reinforcing its truth. Write your identity statements. Read them daily. But critically, back them up with action. Words without corresponding behavior are meaningless. But words combined with aligned action are powerful. Also, understand that identity change often requires leaving behind old identities. This can be painful. Maybe you've been identified as the party person, or the person who doesn't take things seriously. Those identities might have served you once. But if they're not serving you now, they need to be released. This feels like a loss. You are saying goodbye to a version of yourself. But that loss creates space for growth. You are not destroying yourself. You are evolving into a new version. Surround yourself with people who reflect the identity you are building. Your peer group powerfully influences your self-concept. If everyone around you embodies discipline, you'll naturally start identifying as disciplined. If everyone around you embodies a victim mentality, that identity will feel normal. Choose your influences deliberately. Who are you spending time with? What identities do they embody? Are they reinforcing the identity you want, or the identity you are trying to leave behind? This might mean creating distance from certain relationships. Not with hostility, but with intentionality. You are protecting your transformation. Another aspect: language matters. How you talk about yourself shapes your identity. Stop saying, I'm bad at this, or I'm not a morning person, or I'm just not disciplined. These statements reinforce limiting identities. Replace them with growth-oriented language. I'm developing this skill. I'm becoming a morning person. I'm building discipline. These statements acknowledge current reality while pointing toward future identity. Small linguistic shifts create significant psychological shifts. Also, celebrate evidence. When you act in alignment with your desired identity, acknowledge it. I said I'd do this, and I did it. I'm becoming someone who keeps commitments. This explicit recognition strengthens the identity-behavior loop. Don't wait for perfection. You don't need to act perfectly to claim an identity. You need to act consistently enough that the identity feels true. If you exercise 3 times this week, you can legitimately identify as someone who exercises regularly. You don't need to wait until you are an athlete. Claim the identity early. It will pull you toward aligned behaviors. Finally, understand that identity-based transformation is not about creating a false self. It's about becoming more fully yourself. You are not adopting someone else's identity. You are uncovering and embodying your authentic potential. The person you are becoming has always been inside you. You are just removing the obstacles that prevented them from emerging. This is the deepest level of transformation. Not changing what you do, changing who you are. And when who you are changes, everything else follows. Decide who you want to be. Then vote for that person with every action, every day, until the identity becomes undeniable. Chapter 11. The Art of Strategic Relationships. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This isn't a metaphor. This is observable reality. The people in your immediate environment shape your beliefs, behaviors, aspirations, and limitations more powerfully than almost any other factor. Show me your closest relationships, and I'll show you your future. If your closest friends are ambitious, disciplined, and growth-oriented, you likely embody those traits. If your closest relationships are characterized by complaint, victimhood, and stagnation, you'll struggle to rise above those patterns. This doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. We are social creatures. We unconsciously adopt the norms, attitudes, and behaviors of our peer group. This is how social learning works. Which means your relationships are not neutral. They're either elevating you or diminishing you. They're either supporting your growth or anchoring you to who you used to be. Most people don't choose their relationships strategically. They maintain relationships by default: childhood friends, coworkers, family, whoever happens to be nearby. And while there's value in long-term relationships, there's danger in maintaining relationships purely out of obligation when they actively harm your development. Strategic relationships doesn't mean using people. It means being intentional about who you invest your time, energy, and vulnerability with. It means recognizing that your time is finite and choosing to spend it with people who make you better. Start by auditing your current relationships. For each significant relationship, ask, does this person inspire me to grow, or do they reinforce my limitations? Do they support my goals, or do they subtly undermine them? Do I feel energized after spending time with them, or depleted? These questions aren't about judging people as good or bad. They're about assessing whether a relationship is serving your growth or preventing it. You'll likely find that some relationships are actively beneficial. They challenge you. They hold you accountable. They model behaviors you want to embody. Invest heavily in these relationships. Other relationships might be neutral. They are pleasant but don't particularly contribute to growth. Maintain these at appropriate levels. And some relationships will be actively draining or limiting. They pull you into old patterns. They discourage your growth. They normalize behaviors you are trying to move beyond. These relationships need boundaries or distance. This is where most people struggle. They feel guilty creating distance from relationships that don't serve them. But maintaining harmful relationships out of guilt helps no one. You are diminishing yourself, which ultimately limits what you can offer others. You cannot save people who don't want to grow. You cannot drag people toward growth who are committed to staying where they are. And attempting to do so will only drain you. Set boundaries. This might mean seeing certain people less frequently. It might mean limiting conversation topics. It might mean ending relationships entirely. Do what's necessary to protect your growth. Simultaneously, actively seek relationships that elevate you. Where do people you admire gather? What communities embody the values you are developing? What environments would expose you to people operating at higher levels? Go there. Join those communities. Attend those events. Put yourself in proximity to people who are where you want to be. This feels uncomfortable, especially if you are used to being the most accomplished person in your circle. Being around people who are ahead of you triggers insecurity. You'll feel like you don't belong. Push through this discomfort. Being the least accomplished person in the room is exactly where you want to be. That's where growth happens. That's where you are pulled upward by the group norm. Also, understand the difference between supporters and cheerleaders. Cheerleaders tell you what you want to hear. They offer unconditional positivity. They validate everything you do. This feels good but doesn't create growth. Supporters tell you what you need to hear. They offer honest feedback. They challenge you. They hold you accountable. This feels uncomfortable but generates real development. Seek supporters, not just cheerleaders. You need people who care about you enough to be honest, even when honesty is uncomfortable. Another key principle: reciprocity. Strategic relationships aren't one-directional extraction. You are not just taking value. You are also providing it. What do you bring to the relationships you are in? Are you supportive? Are you reliable? Are you contributing to others' growth? Or are you just consuming without giving back? Relationships built on mutual value creation are sustainable. Relationships built on extraction aren't. Invest in being someone worth having a relationship with. Develop skills, insights, and resources that you can share. Be generous with your knowledge and support. This creates relationship currency that attracts high-quality connections. Also, be selective with vulnerability. Vulnerability is powerful for building deep connections, but it should be shared strategically. Not everyone has earned the right to your vulnerability. Not everyone can hold it appropriately. Share vulnerability with people who have demonstrated trustworthiness, empathy, and discretion. Protect it from people who gossip, judge, or weaponize personal information. Another consideration: relationship seasons. Not all relationships are meant to last forever. Some people are meant to be in your life for a season. They serve a purpose during a particular phase of growth, and then the relationship naturally completes. Don't force relationships to continue beyond their natural season out of guilt or obligation. Honor what the relationship provided, and release it when it's complete. Finally, invest in deep relationships over numerous shallow ones. Quality beats quantity. A handful of deep, meaningful relationships where you are truly known and supported provides more value than dozens of surface-level connections. Depth requires time and vulnerability. You can't build deep relationships with everyone. Choose a few people worth that investment and go deep. Your relationships will either propel you toward your potential or anchor you to your past. Choose them wisely. Invest in them deliberately. Protect them fiercely. And watch as the right relationships accelerate your transformation in ways individual effort never could. Chapter 12. Overcoming analysis paralysis. Perfect information doesn't exist. Perfect timing doesn't exist. Perfect readiness doesn't exist. If you are waiting for any of these before taking action, you'll wait forever. Analysis paralysis is the state of overthinking to the point of inaction. You research endlessly. You consider every possible outcome. You wait for more data. You seek more opinions. And meanwhile, nothing happens. You are stuck in planning mode, never reaching execution. This is one of the most common ways people sabotage themselves. They disguise procrastination as preparation. They tell themselves they are being thorough, strategic, careful. In reality, they are avoiding the discomfort and risk of actually doing something. Here's the truth: you learn more from action than from analysis. You can spend 6 months researching how to start a business, or you can spend 1 month researching and 5 months actually building. The latter will teach you exponentially more. Action generates information that analysis never can. You don't know how customers will actually respond until you offer something. You don't know what challenges you'll actually face until you start. You don't know what you are actually capable of until you try. Analysis creates hypothetical knowledge. Action creates real knowledge. And real knowledge is what actually moves you forward. So why do people get stuck in analysis? Usually, fear. Fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of failure. Fear of wasted effort. Fear of judgment. Analysis feels safer than action because you can't fail while you are still planning. But this safety is an illusion. You are not avoiding failure. You are guaranteeing it. Because never starting is the ultimate failure. The solution isn't to stop analyzing entirely. It's to put boundaries around analysis. Give yourself a defined time frame for research and decision-making. I'll spend 2 weeks gathering information, then I'm deciding. When the deadline arrives, make the best decision you can with available information and move forward. understand that most decisions are reversible. You are not locked into your choices permanently. If you start down one path and it's clearly wrong, you can adjust. Flexibility beats perfection. Also, recognize that there's diminishing returns on information gathering. The first hour of research provides tremendous value. The second hour provides less. The 10th hour provides very little additional insight. Most of what you are doing at that point is procrastinating, not learning. Get enough information to make a reasonable decision, then decide. More information won't eliminate uncertainty. It will just delay action. Another technique: set a good enough standard instead of a perfect standard. What does good enough look like for this decision? Once you reach that standard, act. Don't keep optimizing for marginal improvements that delay execution. Perfect is the enemy of done. Done beats perfect every time. Also, use the 70% rule. When you have about 70% of the information you think you need, make the decision. Waiting for 100% takes too long and provides too little additional value. With 70%, you can make a solid decision and adjust as you learn more through action. Another cause of analysis paralysis: too many options. When you are choosing between two options, deciding is relatively straightforward. When you are choosing between 20, it becomes overwhelming. Your brain can't effectively evaluate that many variables. Simplify. Narrow your options to 2 or 3 viable choices. Eliminate clearly inferior options quickly. Then decide among the finalists. Also, differentiate between important decisions and unimportant ones. Not every decision deserves extensive analysis. What to eat for lunch? Decide in 30 seconds. Which career path to pursue? Take some time. But even important decisions don't require endless analysis. There's usually a point where additional thinking doesn't improve the decision quality. Another strategy: time-boxing decisions. For each type of decision, set a maximum time limit. Small decisions get 5 minutes. Medium decisions get an hour. Large decisions get a week. When time expires, decide with whatever information you have. This forces you to move forward instead of spiraling in analysis indefinitely. Also, recognize that indecision is a decision. By not choosing, you are choosing to stay where you are. You are choosing to let circumstances decide for you. Often, this is the worst possible choice. Make active decisions instead of defaulting to passive non-decisions. Another helpful framework: the regret minimization framework. When facing a decision, imagine yourself at age 80 looking back. Which choice will you regret? Which choice will you be proud of? This long-term perspective often clarifies decisions immediately. You are rarely going to regret trying something and failing. You are very likely to regret never trying at all. Also, get comfortable with the fact that some percentage of your decisions will be wrong. This is inevitable. You cannot make perfect decisions consistently. Accepting this removes the pressure that creates paralysis. Your goal isn't to never make wrong decisions. Your goal is to make decisions, learn from the outcomes, and adjust. This iterative process is how you improve over time. Finally, build a bias toward action. When uncertain, default to acting rather than waiting. You can always stop or change course. But you can't learn or progress without starting. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates clarity. Clarity makes better decisions possible. This is a virtuous cycle that begins with taking the first step despite uncertainty. Stop waiting for perfect information. Stop waiting for perfect timing. Stop waiting for perfect readiness. It starts to get messy. Start uncertain. Start being afraid. Just start. Because imperfect action beats perfect planning every single time. Chapter 13. The Power of Radical Responsibility. Here's a question that will reveal everything about your mindset. When something goes wrong in your life, where do you look first? Do you look at external circumstances, other people, bad luck? Or do you look at yourself, your choices, your responses? Most people default to external attribution. When things go wrong, it's because of the economy, their boss, their partner, their past, their genetics, their circumstances. This isn't entirely wrong. External factors do influence outcomes. But here's what external attribution costs you: power. When outcomes are caused by external factors beyond your control, you are powerless to change them. You are a victim of circumstances. You can complain, you can be justified in your complaint, but you can't improve your situation. Radical responsibility is different. Radical responsibility means accepting that while you can't control everything, you're always responsible for your response. And your response determines your experience and outcomes far more than circumstances do. Two people can face identical circumstances and have completely different outcomes based solely on how they respond. Same job loss. One person uses it as motivation to finally start their business, the other spirals into depression and bitterness. Same circumstance, different response, different outcome. Radical responsibility doesn't mean everything is your fault. It means everything is your responsibility. There's a crucial difference. Fault is about blame for the past. Responsibility is about ownership of the future. You might not be at fault for your circumstances. Your childhood might have been traumatic. Your industry might have collapsed. Your partner might have betrayed you. None of that is your fault. But it is your responsibility to deal with it. To heal. To adapt. To rebuild. Because if you don't take responsibility, who will? If you wait for the world to fix your problems, you'll wait forever. Radical responsibility is empowering because it returns control to you. You might not control what happens to you, but you absolutely control what you do about it. This mindset shift is transformative. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you ask, "What am I going to do about this?" Instead of, "Who's to blame?" you ask, "What's within my control?" These questions redirect energy from complaint to action, from victimhood to agency. Radical responsibility also applies to your emotional states. Most people treat emotions as things that happen to them. They made me angry. This situation makes me anxious. That person makes me feel insecure. But nobody makes you feel anything. External events trigger emotional reactions, but the reactions are yours. They are based on your interpretations, beliefs, and past conditioning. Two people in identical situations will feel completely different emotions based on their internal frameworks. When you take responsibility for your emotions, you stop giving others power over your internal state. You stop being controlled by external circumstances. You recognize, "I'm feeling angry because of how I'm interpreting this situation. I can choose a different interpretation." This doesn't mean you can control emotions directly. You can't just decide to feel happy and make it so. But you can take responsibility for the thoughts and interpretations that generate emotions. And you can choose your response to emotions. Radical responsibility also means owning your results. If you are not getting the results you want in any area of life, ask, "What am I doing or not doing that's creating this outcome? What's my contribution to this pattern?" This is uncomfortable because it requires admitting where you are falling short. It's easier to blame external factors. But blame keeps you stuck. Responsibility creates the possibility of change. For example, if you are struggling financially, radical responsibility asks, "What decisions have I made that contributed to this? What knowledge am I lacking? What behaviors do I need to change?" These questions lead to actionable changes. Blaming the economy, your salary, or your expenses keeps you powerless. Taking responsibility reveals what you can actually control and improve. This applies to relationships too. If your relationships keep failing, the common factor is you. This doesn't mean everything is your fault, but it does mean you have patterns worth examining. What are you contributing to these dynamics? What behaviors do you need to change? Radical responsibility also means owning your commitments. When you say you'll do something and don't, it's easy to blame circumstances. I was too busy. Something came up. I didn't have time. Radical responsibility says, I committed to this and didn't follow through. Either I shouldn't have committed, or I should have prioritized differently. This is on me. No excuses. Just ownership. This level of accountability is rare. Most people have an excuse for everything. But excuses, even valid ones, don't change outcomes. Radical responsibility does. Another aspect, taking responsibility for what you tolerate. If you are in a toxic work environment and stay, that's a choice. If you are in an unhealthy relationship and don't set boundaries, that's a choice. You might have reasons for these choices, but they are still choices. Radical responsibility means acknowledging, I'm choosing to stay. This situation continues because I'm allowing it to continue. If I want it to be different, I'd have to choose differently. This can feel harsh, but it's also liberating. If you are choosing to stay, you can choose to leave. You are not trapped. You are making a decision, even if by default. Finally, radical responsibility means owning your potential. You have capacities you are not using, opportunities you are not taking, growth you are not pursuing. Nobody is stopping you except you. When you fully own this, excuses disappear. You stop waiting for permission. You stop blaming circumstances. You recognize that your life is the sum of your choices, and you can start making different ones today. Radical responsibility is not about being hard on yourself. It's about reclaiming power. It's about moving from, I can't because, to, I choose to. It's about becoming the author of your life, instead of a character in someone else's story. Take responsibility, not for everything that happens to you, but for everything you do about it. And watch as victimhood transforms into power. Chapter 14. Cultivating Anti-Fragility. Resilience is the ability to withstand stress and return to baseline. Anti-fragility is different. Anti-fragility is the ability to get stronger from stress. Not just survive it, but thrive because of it. This concept, developed by Nassim Taleb, reveals a category beyond resilience that most people never consider. You don't just want to survive challenges. You want to use them as fuel for growth. Think about muscles. When you lift weights, you are creating microtears in muscle fiber. This is damage. But during recovery, the muscle rebuilds stronger than before. The stress didn't just harm the muscle. It triggered adaptation that made it more capable. This is anti-fragility. The system doesn't just resist harm. It uses harm to improve. You can develop anti-fragility psychologically, emotionally, and practically. The key is understanding that certain types of stress, in the right doses, make you stronger. Psychological anti-fragility means developing mindsets and skills that improve through challenge. Each time you face rejection and continue anyway, you become less affected by future rejection. Each time you handle failure and extract lessons, you become better at handling future failures. You are not just surviving these experiences. You are using them to build psychological capabilities you didn't have before. This requires reframing challenges. Instead of viewing difficulty as something to avoid, view it as training. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this making me stronger at? Every challenge is an opportunity to develop a specific capacity. Social rejection develops emotional resilience. Financial setbacks develop resourcefulness. A health crisis develops appreciation and discipline. Betrayal develops discernment. You are not just getting through these experiences. You are extracting strength from them. But anti-fragility requires the right dose of stress. Too little stress and you don't adapt. Too much stress and you break. The goal is to consistently expose yourself to manageable challenges that are difficult enough to trigger adaptation, but not so overwhelming that they cause lasting damage. This is hormesis, small doses of stress that make systems stronger. Cold exposure, intermittent fasting, challenging workouts, difficult conversations. These stressors, in controlled doses, create adaptation. Build this into your life deliberately. Don't wait for challenges to arrive randomly. Seek them out at a manageable level. This way, when unavoidable large challenges appear, you've built the capacity to handle them. Another principle of anti-fragility, optionality. Anti-fragile systems have multiple options available. If one path is blocked, others remain. Fragile systems have only one path. Any disruption breaks them. Build optionality into your life. Don't depend on a single income source. Don't invest all your identity in one role. Don't build your entire social life around one relationship. Diversify. This doesn't mean lack of commitment. It means not creating single points of failure. When you have options, stress in one area doesn't collapse your entire life. Also, embrace controlled volatility. Fragile systems require stability. They break under fluctuation. Anti-fragile systems benefit from volatility because it creates opportunities for adaptation. This means not seeking perfect comfort and stability. Introduce controlled variation. Change routines. Try new things. Face unfamiliar situations. This variability keeps you adaptable instead of rigid. Anti-fragility also requires maintaining reserves. Fragile systems operate at maximum capacity with no margin. Any additional stress overwhelms them. Anti-fragile systems maintain buffers, financial reserves, extra time, recovery periods, backup plans. This margin absorbs unexpected stress and creates space for strategic response instead of reactive panic. Build margin into your life. Don't schedule every minute. Don't spend every dollar. Don't commit every ounce of energy. Keep reserves available for the inevitable unexpected. Another element, learning from failures. Anti-fragile systems have feedback loops that extract information from what doesn't work. Each failure provides data that improves future attempts. Fragile systems repeat failures because they don't extract lessons. Anti-fragile systems fail forward. Each iteration is informed by previous attempts. After any setback, conduct a thorough review. What went wrong? What was within your control? What would you do differently? What can you learn? This process transforms failure from pure loss to valuable information. Also, develop redundancy in critical areas. If something is essential, don't rely on a single source or method. Have backups. Have alternatives. This creates robustness that allows you to benefit from volatility instead of being destroyed by it. Finally, anti-fragility requires getting comfortable with uncertainty. Fragile systems need predictability. They plan for specific scenarios and break when reality doesn't match expectations. Anti-fragile systems embrace uncertainty as the source of opportunity. You can't predict the future. You can't control all variables. Accept this. Then build systems and capabilities that benefit from unpredictability instead of being destroyed by it. Develop skills that are valuable across contexts. Build relationships that provide diverse perspectives and connections. Create flexible plans that adapt to changing circumstances. Anti-fragility is about more than surviving. It's about using stress, volatility, and challenge as mechanisms for becoming stronger, smarter, and more capable. Don't just endure difficulty. Use it. Extract strength from it. Let it make you better. And watch as challenges that would break others become opportunities that elevate you. Chapter 15. Legacy Thinking and Long-Term Vision. Most people live in the tyranny of the urgent. They operate in survival mode, addressing immediate needs and short-term pressures. They never lift their eyes to see beyond the next week, the next month, the next year. This creates a life of reactive scrambling. You are constantly putting out fires, never building anything lasting. You are busy but not progressing. Active but not achieving anything meaningful. Legacy thinking is the antidote. Legacy thinking means regularly asking, what am I building that will outlast me? What impact am I creating that extends beyond my lifetime? What am I doing today that my future self will thank me for? These questions shift your time horizon from immediate to extended. They force you to think beyond today's comfort and consider long-term consequences and contributions. Start by defining what legacy means to you. Not what society says it should be, but what genuinely matters to you. Legacy doesn't require fame or wealth. Legacy is about meaningful impact. Maybe your legacy is raising children who are emotionally healthy and contribute positively to the world. Maybe it's creating art that inspires people. Maybe it's building systems that solve problems. Maybe it's mentoring people who then mentor others, creating exponential impact. Whatever it is, define it clearly. Because if you don't know what you are building toward, you'll never build it. Once you have clarity on your desired legacy, work backward. If this is the impact you want to create in your lifetime, what needs to be true 10 years from now? 5 years? 1 year? This month? This backward planning connects daily actions to ultimate impact. You are no longer just getting through the day. You are building towards something that matters. Legacy thinking also changes how you make decisions. When facing a choice, ask, which option moves me closer to the legacy I want to create? This provides clarity that short-term thinking can't offer. The choice to watch Netflix tonight or work on your meaningful project might seem trivial. But when viewed through a legacy lens, the right choice becomes obvious. One builds toward your legacy. The other doesn't. Multiply that choice by hundreds of similar decisions over years, and you see how daily choices create or prevent legacy. Another aspect of legacy thinking: investing in things that compound. Your time and energy are finite. Invest them in activities that compound value over time, not activities that produce one-time results. Learning compounds. Each skill you develop becomes a foundation for learning related skills faster. Relationships compound. Deep relationships create networks that generate opportunities and support over decades. Reputation compounds. Each positive interaction builds credibility that opens future doors. Financial investments compound. Health investments compound. Creative work compounds. Prioritize these over non-compounding activities. Entertainment doesn't compound. Comfort doesn't compound. These have their place, but they shouldn't dominate your time. Legacy thinking also means considering second and third-order consequences of your actions. Short-term thinking only considers immediate results. Long-term thinking considers ripple effects. If you build a business, the immediate result is income. The second-order result might be jobs created for others. The third-order result might be the impact those employees have in their communities. Understanding these extended consequences reveals the true magnitude of your actions. Also, think in generations. What are you creating or preserving for future generations? This might be literal descendants, or it might be the broader human community. Are you consuming resources or replenishing them? Are you solving problems or creating them? Are you adding value or extracting it? These questions shift perspective from individual benefit to collective impact. And paradoxically, focusing on collective impact often creates more personal fulfillment than pure self-interest does. Another element: documenting your wisdom. Throughout your life, you are accumulating insights, lessons, and perspectives that are unique to your experience. If you don't document them, they die with you. Write, record, share. Not because you think you are some guru, but because your experience might help someone else navigate similar challenges. Your mistakes might save someone else from the same pain. Your insights might provide clarity someone desperately needs. Legacy thinking also means making peace with the fact that you won't see the full impact of your work. You are planting trees whose shade you'll never sit under. You are solving problems whose benefits might not be realized for generations. This requires faith in the value of the work itself, independent of recognition or reward. Can you do meaningful work knowing you might never see its full impact? Can you contribute to causes larger than yourself? This is maturity. Moving from "what's in it for me" to "what can I contribute?" Finally, Legacy thinking means living in alignment with values worth passing on. Your children, your mentees, the people who observe you, they're not learning from what you say. They're learning from what you do. Are you embodying the values you claim to believe in? Are you living in a way you'd be proud for others to emulate? Are your daily choices creating a life worth modeling? Because your legacy isn't just what you intentionally create. It's also the example you set, the behaviors you model, the standards you maintain. People won't remember your accomplishments as much as they'll remember how you made them feel and how you showed up when things were difficult. Legacy thinking doesn't require sacrificing the present for the future. It requires making the present meaningful by connecting it to something larger than immediate gratification. It requires asking, what am I building? What am I contributing to? What will remain after I'm gone? Answer these questions honestly. Then start living in alignment with those answers. Because time is passing whether you are building a legacy or not. Might as well build something that matters. You've just invested over 2 hours in yourself. 2 hours that most people will never commit because they are too distracted, too busy, too convinced they already know everything they need to know. But you showed up. You listened. You learned. And now comes the only part that actually matters, implementation. Because everything you just learned is worthless if it remains intellectual knowledge. Information without action is just entertainment. Insights without application are just thoughts that fade by tomorrow. So before you move on, make a decision. Choose one principle from these 15 chapters. Just one. And commit to embodying it completely for the next 30 days. Maybe it's rewriting your mental architecture. Maybe it's building one keystone habit using neuroscience. Maybe it's developing emotional intelligence through daily practice. Maybe it's taking radical responsibility for your results. Maybe it's cultivating anti-fragility through controlled challenge. Maybe it's starting with legacy thinking instead of short-term reaction. Whatever it is, commit fully. Write it down. Create accountability. Track your progress. Make it non-negotiable. And watch what happens. Watch how one principle, applied consistently, creates cascading changes throughout your life. Watch how small daily actions compound into massive transformation. Watch how you become someone you barely recognize in the best possible way. You are capable of extraordinary transformation. Not because you are special, but because you are human. And humans have this remarkable capacity to learn, grow, adapt, and evolve. The only question is, will you? Will you do the work when it's uncomfortable? Will you keep going when results aren't immediate? Will you choose growth over comfort, action over excuses, courage over fear? This is your moment. This is your life. This is your one opportunity to become who you are meant to be. Stop waiting. Stop wishing. Stop hoping circumstances will change. Change yourself. Through conscious choice. Through consistent action. Through unwavering commitment. Master yourself. Transform your world. Build a legacy that matters. The power has always been yours. Now use it. Thank you for these hours. Now go create a lifetime of impact. Your transformation starts now.